Welcome to Bed Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, T. You like your true crime without drama, but with facts and some speculation based on facts? Then you're in the right place. And if you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Without further ado, let's get started. Well, hello there. How are you? I hope you're having a great day, great afternoon, great evening. Bryan Kohberger, the defendant in the Idaho 4 case, is now scheduled to go to trial on August 11th of 2025. That's later than originally planned. The trial is expected to last up until November 7th. 2 nights ago, the father of victim Kaylee Goncalves was on Nancy Grace. Steve Goncalves remains as committed as ever to ensuring Kaylee, Xana, Ethan, and Maddie get justice. Goncalves said he believes we will learn at trial that Bryan Kohberger planned to unalive someone before he left his home state of Pennsylvania to study in Pullman, Washington. Steve Goncalves believes that Bryan Kohberger planned this crime from his bedroom in Pennsylvania. Goncalves says he thinks Kohberger picked the Northwest for his graduate criminology studies because of its dark history with serialists like Ted Bundy and Gary Ridgway, and that Kohberger even wanted to outdo them in the sense of showing how to commit the perfect crime. Nancy Grace believes that Kohberger's alleged attack was motivated by his criminology studies and wanting to know what it feels like to unalive someone. Nancy asked Steve how the crime unfolded for him. Steve told how he and his wife Christy were home watching a football game when they received phone calls alerting them to a crime that had gone down on King Road in Moscow, Idaho. Steve did not think it was going to turn out to be an unaliving, and certainly not an unaliving of 4 people. Since then, Steve's goal has been to get to the bottom of who did this and to ensure that the guilty party or parties are punished. Nancy became teary-eyed because it brought up memories of her own fiancé being unalived in 1979. Nancy said she didn't believe the news when she heard it back then. It was only when a pastor told her the name of the funeral home that had her fiancé, Keith's body, that it finally sunk in. Nancy's fiancé was 23-year-old Keith Griffin. He was a part-time geology student and a part-time employee at a construction company in Madison, Georgia. Tragically, he was unalived on U.S. Route 278 in Georgia by a guy named Tommy McCoy. McCoy was a former co-worker of Keith's. When Keith took the company truck out to buy sodas for himself and his co-workers, McCoy, who had recently been fired, unalived Keith. As Keith was driving back onto the construction site he was working on, McCoy, spotting the company truck, opened fire. Keith was hit 5 times in the face, neck, and head. Imagine that, 23 with his whole life ahead of him, a fiancé, and he gets done in by a coworker who probably didn't even know who was driving that truck. McCoy was convicted in 1980 and served more than 25 years in prison until his parole in 2006. The crime led Nancy to drop out of school and stop eating. In time, she began to live again and was inspired to attend law school and become a prosecutor to fight against the bad guys. For Steve Goncalves, he couldn't believe that these gentle souls, Kaylee, Xana, Maddie, and Ethan, could have been harmed. He was like, why? What could they have done? Steve said he found Kaylee's funeral appalling and gross. You shouldn't be burying your child, and your child should not have been harmed. especially in this horrific manner. Steve expressed the desire to bring down wrath on the person responsible. And I can understand the desire to turn the hunter into the hunted and to want to track down that monster and unleash your fury. I think I'd want to track that person down too and make him or her suffer. I get that. I don't see myself just saying, let the police handle it, especially if it took them so long to find and arrest a suspect. Nancy brought up Kohberger's obsession with females, how he was banned from a bar because of inappropriate comments and behavior with the female staff and female patrons, and how he stared at females in the student union, how he sat and questioned that female officer when she pulled him over for a traffic citation, and how he helped a female colleague at Washington State University install security cameras. Likely he helped because he was able to then peek in on her secretly. Psychoanalyst Dr. Bethany Marshall was also on the show, and she stated that Kohberger is without a doubt a psychopath, and she explained that for him, sex and violence are fused. They are one and the same. They go together. Dr. Marshall said that based on how beautiful and good these young people were, Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan, she feels Kohberger wanted to eradicate something good, destroy something good, and he deliberately picked at least one of the victims because of her beauty, her goodness, her popularity. Nancy Grace, like Steve, believes Kohberger is the perpetrator. She brought up the 11 times Kohberger's cell phone was near the girl's rental home on King Road in Moscow, Idaho. Steve pointed out that there was no good reason for Kohberger to be in Moscow, Idaho, and to be in that neighborhood on that street. Makes sense, right? But I know some people have speculated that Kohberger was there instead to buy drugs. Nancy then mentioned female fans of Kohberger and Kohberger's demands for haircuts, for the right to wear street clothing to all of his hearings, and the fact that he's getting these demands met. Naturally, it is very painful for the Goncalves to see Kohberger getting these things. Steve said he understands Kohberger's need to wear a suit at trial, but why for these pre-trial hearings? To be the family member of a victim has to be so difficult. By the way, Goncalves is happy with the new judge in Ada County. Steve said he's seen Kohberger in court, but Kohberger has never peered into Steve's eyes. Steve wants to have that moment. He wants to look into those eyes and see how he feels. Is there a soul in there? Steve also mentioned that some people have been contacting him to sign something to release the crime scene photos. Who in the heck would do that? In my opinion, that is monstrous. Any YouTuber or any TikToker or anybody else who would do that is, in my opinion, immoral. It's not okay. You know, in 2007, Nancy Grace found love again. She married David Lynch, and in 2008 became a mother to twins, John David and Lucy, and she wrote a book called Don't Be a Victim: Fighting Against America's Crime Wave. And she wanted to share some safety tips in there, and now I'm going to share those with you. She said, do not linger in the parking lot on arrival or on departure. Don't start a phone conversation. Keep moving. In another chapter, she urges, never have your child's belongings monogrammed or stylized with their name or initials. This makes it so much easier for a predator to get your child's attention by calling out their name. And in that one moment, they attack. Being called by their name also lulls a child into the belief that the predator knows them and their family. I thought those were good tips, and I wanted you guys to know them. Until the next time on Bed Crime Stories. Hey, if you enjoyed this, please do me a favor, smash that like button, leave me a comment, subscribe to the channel, and consider a membership.